In this video I'm going to show you how to make a hobo or foil packet dinner. And this is one of my favorite camping meals, and so I'm excited to share the way that I do it with you. Let's get started. Alright, the first thing we got to do before we can assemble our hobo dinners is we got to prepare the veggies. And so I'm just going to do that now. This is how I like my potatoes, which is nice and thin, like full potato slices, but then of course you can also like chop them down into little diced chunks like that, and that works well as well. This is how I like to slice the onions for the hobo dinners, because once you get these chunks roasted in the foil, it tastes really good like that. So I like the way that mixes in with the other ingredients. So I got all of my ingredients. So I have the potatoes and the onions that we just sliced. I went and I got some regular ground beef, and aluminum foil, and then the seasoning I have here is just regular salt and pepper, and then some garlic powder. So we're going to put this all together and assemble our hobo dinners now. The first thing I'm going to do is rip out some foil for the first packet. And I'm not sure exactly how many of these I'm going to make yet. We'll see how many ingredients I end up having. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bunch of sheets out, and then I'm going to put meat on all of them, and then I'm going to go wash my hands and deal with the other ingredients. So that's the way we're going to do it. I'm going to guess that I'm going to be able to do 5 of these. And if you wonder how much foil you need to wrap one of these, it depends on how much you plan to put in it. So I've done a few different sizes, and we're just gonna see how much I can get into the size of foil that I've cut out here. The aluminum foil is probably a good surrogate. So like 1 to 2 lengths of a regular foil packet is probably a good amount to pull out, because then you're gonna wrap it all up in that. So there are 2 main methods for the meat when you do it like this. One method, which I know a lot of people like to do, is basically to make like a hamburger patty with your hands and mash up the meat and just put it in the middle of the foil packet like so. And then once you do that, you'll put like you'll put the seasoning on top, and then you'll put all the other ingredients on top. So that's one method, but I actually like to do it differently. So the way I most like to do it is I like to make little like meat droplets throughout, and I like to do that for a couple reasons. One, it cooks the meat faster, and the other reason is that it kind of disperses the meat more evenly throughout the dinner, and so you have it mixed in with like the potatoes and onions and other things, and I like doing it better that way. So what I'll do is I'll take like chunks, and you can ball it up in your hand, or you can just literally like take a chunk and just like throw it in there. Yeah. Another thing that is smart to do that I have not done here, because I am occasionally smart but not always, is you can actually spray the foil with some like cooking spray or butter if you have it, to prevent the meat and other ingredients from sticking to the sides. I'm not going to bother doing that now because I don't have any with me, but you can do that and it helps. Alright, I almost got 5. I'm a little bit shy, but that'll do for now. Alright, cool, we got our meat out. I'm gonna go wash my hands and throw this away. Alright, I got clean hands, and now I'm gonna take my foil with the meat on top, and I'm going to add seasoning first to the meat, and then I'm going to put my potatoes and onions on top and then fold them up. So we'll start with this one, and then we'll go on through. So get my salt and pepper. Just a little bit of each, proportional to the amount of meat that you've added. This is not an exact science. A little bit of garlic powder. Ooh, it came up fast. All right, now I'm gonna add some potatoes. And the onions on top. All right, so you get the seasoning on, and then the potatoes and the onions. And then if you want to put some more seasoning on top, that can be a good thing to do as well. I'm just going to put a little bit more garlic and black pepper on. I usually go a bit light on the salt because I want to live forever. I don't want to live forever. Alright, then once you have it, it comes time for folding up the foil into the packet. Different people have different ways of doing this. I'm gonna show you the way that I do it. Probably the best thing to do is, if you can meet in the middle on the shortest side, do that first. If you can reach, like I can just reach here, you can fold it and then you can roll it up from the ends like so. And so that's a pretty good package. It's got a bit of a gap on top. So what some people will do is they'll then take another, I'll just show you. So you get another piece of aluminum foil if you don't think it's tight enough, and then you wrap it again the other way. So I'll put the side of this that has the seam on it face down on my piece of foil, like so. And then I'll wrap this piece of foil up and over and around. And that just helps you make sure that you don't let anything fall out. You can usually though, and you might see this here in a second, but you can usually do it all with just one piece of foil, and that way you don't have to waste the extra foil. So I usually try to do it with one piece, but if you need an extra piece, you can use an extra piece. Seasoning. All right, we've got all of our hobo dinners ready to put on the fire. Here's the fire that I built for this. And before we put them on, I want to note two things. First, when you're cooking on a fire, you should let it burn down a bit so you get the coals like this before you cook, because it's just going to cook better. You don't want the big leaping, like, open flames, because that's going to burn something, possibly you, which is not the best. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just use I have like a poker stick thing here. I'm just going to level out the coals to prepare it for my foil packets. That's pretty decent. And then this is a relatively small fire pit, so I'm probably not going to be able to get them all on at once, but I'm going to get as many as I can on there. We'll start with the biggest one. Just gonna be careful, obviously it's a fire, it's hot, don't burn yourself. If you have a relatively big fire too, one other thing that I'll mention is if you have extra coals that you can take out and put on top, that allows you to cook it both on the top and on the bottom at the same time, so that can save you some time and help it to cook more evenly. Alternatively, you can just hope for the best, or you can flip them part way through, and yeah, it just depends on the situation you've got. All right, so a couple things I wanted to point out to you. I'm about to flip my foil packets or hobo dinners here, and first of all, you probably have the question, how long do I cook it for? So for me, in this situation, my fire is quite hot, and in fact I probably could have let it burn down for a while longer. But because my fire is so hot, I probably only need to cook it for 30 minutes or so. If you had a fire that was burned down quite a bit more, then it might take you closer to 45 minutes, even an hour, because, and it also does depend on how much meat you've put in and how thick your potato slices are. So in my foil packets, I've put, in most of them, I have one really big packet, but in most of my packets, I've done a few like pieces of meat, so that'll cook faster. And I've tried to do thin slices of potatoes, so that'll cook faster. So probably for me, about 30 minutes. If you've done thicker slices or you have a fire with less heat, probably closer to 45 minutes to an hour. Once they are done and you do tend to take them off, you can check it, look at the meat, make sure it's cooked through, and you can also look at the potatoes to make sure they're soft. So that's the first thing. I'm gonna show you how I'm going to flip these over. I'm ready to flip these over now. To do this, you really should have one of those long pairs of metal tongs, like you would have at like a kitchen or like a barbecue cook would have something like that. All I have is these tongs and an oven mitt. So that's what I'm using, but don't do it this way. This is not the way to do it. use the long metal tongs. That's far better and a safer way of going about it. Assuming you have that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna use your tongs, try to get to the middle of both sides of the foil packet, and then you're just gonna simply turn your wrist to flip it over. So I'm gonna do that here on this side with this one. And because I'm using a makeshift method, it's probably gonna be a little more difficult for me than it would be for you. But yeah, that's basically what you do. There's not much to it. For the bigger ones, it's probably a little bit harder. You might have to be a bit quicker so that nothing falls out. Just like that. Like that. Yep, the potato's soft. You see it breaking like that. Pork goes right through it. Onions seem okay. Let's check the meat. It's down here on the bottom. Get a piece of that out. Did it in small chunks, so it usually doesn't take too long to cook them, but yeah, you can see it's cooked through there. You may or may not be able to see that, but it's cooked through brown. So yeah, this looks like a great hobo dinner.